I would like to call to order the City of Saugatuck's Parks and Public Works Committee meeting for September 27th, 2022. City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Cherrick,
Here.
Dean,
Here.
Young,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Kimball,
Here.
Roach.
Here.
I would like to suggest that we approve the agenda with one change to the agenda, and that is an addition of an item 9, which would be adjournment. Without such an amendment, this committee would never stop. Do I have support for that, or is it just a roll call?
The motion and second would be appropriate.
What kind of a motion for this
You
change?
made the motions.
I
Oh, okay.
Support.
I'll
Okay, there we
second.
go.
Clerk, could you please call the roll?
All those in favor would be appropriate voice vote. All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. So we are now at item 4, which is public comment. If there's anybody in attendance or online that would like to make a comment, please feel free to do so, and we will give you 3 minutes to share your thoughts with us.
We've got a hand raised by Mayor.
Please,
there, everybody.
please identify yourself and place of residence for the record.
Yeah, hi, Garnet Lewis, City of Saugatuck. Just wanted to say hi and thank you all so much. I'm really looking forward to everything you're going to be doing. So thank you for your time and enjoy. Thank you.
Do we have any other folks wishing to comment?
Not that I see.
All right, seeing none. I'd like to start with just some chair comments, if I may. I'm just really excited to be presiding over the first Saugatuck Parks and Public Works Committee. I like to call it the PPW Committee in more than a decade. So I'm really excited for this committee, having had a chance to get to know all of you prior to establishing the committee. I really am so thrilled with the potential this committee is going to have. I mean, you all bring passions for our parks and our public works and the outdoors. And I think you all bring a little bit something different to the table. And I think working together, we can really put together some great plans that we can move forward to our city council. So really thank you for your service to Saugatuck. And with that, I think I am ready to hand the agenda over to our manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome.
You did a great job. All right, so let's say over here. And we did put a little PowerPoint presentation just to guide us through this first meeting. And the first thing I want to say is that I want this to be a really fun committee. As Ruth had mentioned, if parks aren't fun, what is? And although you will be getting into some serious business, your recommendations will be very important as we move forward. There's some very important projects that you all will be reviewing and making recommendations to the council on. This is the kickoff meeting. So next slide, please. All right, here's the agenda. We'll do some introductions with staff and then just a little brief roundabout about who you are and why you're here. Scope of the committee, we'll talk about that, what your purview is, what you do, what you don't do. Talk about committee decorum. You know, I don't want to spend too much time on this. It's again, we're trying to keep it light, but we do have to follow some basic rules. I'll talk about that. And then we'll do just like a really brief overview of some of the council priorities for the parks that came out of their strategic planning session in 2021 of December. And then staff will talk about a list of our staff priorities with the major theme of maintaining your existing assets, right? You have a lot of beautiful amenities as it stands, and we want to make sure those are maintained. And so that's kind of our focus at the moment before we move on to some other projects. And then we're going to give you a bunch of homework. You're welcome. And it's going to be a review of the master plan and some other projects and designs that have already been developed by the engineer that we work with Fleece and Vanderbrink. So Next slide, please. All right, so getting into it, intros, starting with staff first. We have Scott Herbert here. Hi. And I'll let you introduce Cody. So come on up. Scott, tell us who you are, how long you've been here,
Sure.
how much you do.
Hey, thank you, Ryan. Hello, everybody. I know we've all met before, but just for formality's sake, I'll just do an introduction. I'm Scott Herbert, the Public Works Superintendent. A little background on me is I started working as a seasonal staff member here in 2007. I did that while I went to school for business administration and worked in Saugatuck just as a summer gig. Helped me pay for tuition and books and parking permits and whatnot, emptying trash and cleaning restrooms and all the fun stuff that I didn't really know why I didn't just bartend at Maro's and make 7 times the amount of money, but for some reason I stayed working outside, and it was really fun and rewarding work in its own way. So after I graduated, got hired as a full-time equipment operator and maintenance worker. Worked alongside of a lot of really experienced guys. They'd worked there for decades, and they learned an absolute ton from them. And then once they started retiring and whatnot, my predecessor, Bruce Simonson, retired. I applied for the superintendent job, and the city and I decided that was a good fit for one another. So I've been the public works superintendent since 2017. So about 5 years of experience now with that. Seen quite a lot of change throughout that time. And so with that being said, a little bit of the transitioning from me over to the department in general, just to give you kind of an overview, is we've got myself as the superintendent, and then Cody Hardy, who is here with me. He is we just promoted him to the Public Works Assistant Supervisor role. And then we also have Sarah Williams now, who's our Deputy Clerk / DPW Administrative Assistant. So I'm thinking Sarah's going to help us out quite a bit with this committee group. But other than that, we've got 4 other full-time equipment operators and maintenance workers. That's it. That's the whole Public Works crew, is just that small handful of people. So the term department can be a little bit deceiving, and it sounds like we're large. We're not at all. So it's kind of one of our challenges, and I hope that we can potentially build on that as time goes on. So yeah, that's I could get into a little bit of.
Let's go to the next point here, which is like you're also in charge of the Oval Beach Squad, which is it ramps up to about what, 25 employees?
Yeah. So what I can do maybe is just give a brief overview of kind of, really high level what we do over the 4 seasons, if that's okay, if this is an appropriate time. So we'll start with winter time. We're snow plowing, and what that means is we're responsible for the streets, the sidewalks, parking lots, dead ends, Oval Beach parking lot's huge, so on and so forth, shoveling steps. We do have a snow and ice district that we pay a lot more close attention to in terms of applying salt products. And besides that, when it's not snowing, when we never know what it's going to be, what winter's going to look like. So we try to do most of our tree work during the off season for quite a few different reasons. We heavy emphasis on equipment maintenance, where those wheels are just turning nonstop, spring, summer, and fall. And in the wintertime, it's an opportunity for us to just go through the maintenance manuals, and it's an indoor job. And so we have a lot of really nice, expensive equipment. We like to make sure it's dependable, and we're protecting the city's investment on that. So, and cleaning the DPW garage and getting ourselves organized for the busy season. Staff recruiting is consistent among all seasons. It's hard to get help, especially, cleaning restrooms and emptying trash. No one's really, oh, please, can I do that? So that's always a challenge. And then just miscellaneous projects. Spring is one of our busier seasons. Spring and fall are, but in the spring, we're getting town ready for summer season. And what that means is the Oval Beach requires a ton of maintenance to get that looking pristine. Turning on the water on all the city properties, getting irrigation up and running, adjusted. We are opening, and the Wicks Park and Mount Bald Head restrooms and the Oval Beach restrooms, they don't have a water heater or heat source, so we have to winterize those. So in the spring, we get those ready for the season. More recruiting. We do our annual tree care planting. All the removals that we did in the winter time, we replant those in the spring. Storm drains. We have a lot of catch basins around town. They collect gravel and whatnot. So we have to do a manual inventory of all the storm drains in the city every spring and figure out which ones of those need to get cleaned out. That's a pretty big job and pretty important job for us. So we don't have any backups. Mulch, I think we spread about 80 yards of mulch in the city with our small staff. So, and then we try to sneak in a couple extra special projects to really kind of improve the city after that. Cause a lot of what I'm talking about is just routine maintenance. And then uninstalling that snowplow equipment, putting it away for the season, making sure it's lubricated, all the salt's removed off of it. That's a pretty big job too. So summer, you'd think that would be what I had the most to talk about. I don't. That's pretty much all maintenance all summer long. It's just the routine stuff. Raking the beach, sweeping the parking lot at the beach, painting the streets, etc. So not a whole lot of wiggle room for us to do move town ahead in the summertime. But in the fall, then we're transitioning. We're focusing on holiday decorations. So fall right now, soon, the first 2-3 weeks of November, we're focusing on Christmas decorations. And that's pretty much all hands on deck at the Public Works for those first few weeks until the tree lighting ceremony and Thanksgiving. But before November, we're trying to fit as much as possible in, so we can go into wintertime prepared. So park work, winterizing, blowing out the irrigation, winterizing the restrooms. It's the perfect time of year, early fall, to do a tree inventory of the city, because most of the trees have a full canopy. You can more easily identify when there's defects in the trees. And so we try to do a citywide tree inventory. This year, we're getting pretty aggressive on sidewalk maintenance. There's a lot of work that needs to be done for sidewalks, and trees, tree roots kind of wreak havoc on concrete, and it pushes them up, creates trip hazards, and it's something we have to deal with. So we're doing that beginning next week. All the prep work's been done, but you'll see construction taking place next week. And then usually like first week or so of November, we like to have everything winterized. And then all the snowplow equipment's ready, because we never know when that first snow is gonna happen. And then, of course, so much of our time is leaf collection in the fall. It's a huge task, and they've barely started falling. So between now and when that first snow happens, all these leaves need to get hauled out of town, and that's on us too. So that's your basic overview. I'm sorry if it was long-winded. There's a lot that we do, and I won't bother you with any more. So thank you.
Any questions for Scott?
Do we sub any of that work out?
That's something that I hope that maybe we can, I think Scott and Garnett, and I think a lot of you, I think what we talked about in the interviews for the committee here is really trying to find an equilibrium between what services we can contract out, maybe do a cost benefit analysis to see what makes sense financially for us to do in-house versus outsource. So given the demand that we've experienced over the years and the increased demand, I think my personal opinion is that it'll make town better. We can improve on it more if we can shed some of that routine stuff. But we do contract out some of it, but probably not as much as we should.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a couple of points on that. I mean, irrigation,
I
right?
was gonna say, do we sub out the irrigation?
Well, we bring in outside help to help troubleshoot some of the irrigation as an example.
Some of the more technical problems with irrigation we do, but most of it we're doing in-house.
Seasonal lighting would be another example of something
Mhm.
that we outsource. But yeah, Scott and I have been talking about flexing in contractors to do some of the kind of mow and blow work.
Yeah.
Right? Leaving our very talented staff to do more technical stuff. However, it's been a challenge across all industries to find a contractor that would show up to do the work. So.
Well, a big part of contract work too is that, sometimes when you contract work out, like just mowing the parks, like, are they going to go around a giant tree limb, or is that extra? So, a cost benefit analysis would probably be appropriate for that type of work.
Scott, quick question. So you guys do all the trash removal for all the public spaces, parks, downtown, all of that?
The trash?
Yeah.
Yes.
And are we contracted through Republic for that as well? Or are you guys?
We have a dumpster at the garage and it all goes in there.
Okay.
Yeah, so just like explain a little bit, like take all the garbage bags out of our public trash cans, throw it in the back of the truck, then we haul it over to the Department of Public Works.
Got it. Okay.
Every weekend.
Every day,
Well, yeah.
every single day, twice a day, actually. On Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, we're doing that twice a day, citywide.
During season?
From Memorial Day to Labor Day, yes. Yep.
Where do the frost floods go?
We don't, I'm not exactly sure on that. That's something I think that gets set by the state, I believe, so they can change. as
Yeah, I
far
don't
as
think there's a
go, but-
set date for those.
Yeah.
For what? The frost?
Frost laws,
I don't know.
weight limit for on the roads.
Mhm.
Okay.
People are listening, sir, and we're recording this meeting. Did you hear
Is that button on or off?
I don't know.
If
Oh, you're hot.
I turned yours off.
Okay, and I got one more. So
Yeah, I'm happy
leaf-
to.
For leaf collection, where's that currently going?
We have a site out at the 63rd Street property that we bring all of our organic material out there.
Okay.
And then what happens to it?
It decays.
Oh, just in case.
Yeah, yeah, well, we can separate, what we've done is, if we're doing tree work and we know we have a load of just wood and no leaves, then we have a brush pile for that. But all the leaves, it gets pushed back and piled up and it just decays over time, so.
Are
We
you
should-
doing anything with it to like turning?
We
it, or is it
haven't. I
just-
had a company out of Kalamazoo reach out to me one time and I had a wonderful conversation with them about, they wanted to make compost out of it. I'm like, that's fantastic. Let's do that.
That's where this is
And
going.
then, yeah, and the conversation was phenomenal. And then right at the end, when we were about to just
Mhm,
go for it, they're like, well, it'll cost you this much to have it trucked to Kalamazoo.
mhm.
So they wouldn't take-
Ew.
Okay. So
So
they wouldn't come on site.
they would come on site and haul it away.
Oh, and haul it away. not
Yeah, they would want to
necessarily
haul
on
it to their composting site in Kalamazoo. That was one company.
site. Okay. But we have the land space for it, is what you're saying. But
For
You're not out of
a-
space in terms of where that's being taken.
Yeah, we had the space for it.
All right.
Any other questions? All right.
Great,
Thank you
thanks.
all so
Thanks,
much for
Scott.
serving. Really excited to see where this goes.
Hanging around, there's gonna be more questions, so you're not done, sir. You're gonna be hanging out with us for the next hour. This is Jamie, our clerk. I hope you all know her. She's kind of front lines of customer service, front of house for City Hall. As mentioned, Sarah is a new hire. And she's deputy clerk, so she's gonna be helping Jamie with elections. But more importantly, helping the Department of Public Works with customer service, communication, administrative work. So she's cross-training with Scott. She's been out in the field with doing leaf and debris pickup. Yeah, and then next thing, she's gonna be driving snowplow.
So Sarah, is this a newly created role? We've not had this
This
position before?
this is, and there's gonna be a common theme here, which I'll just kind of, I'll circle back into it. Scott had mentioned that Cody is the new assistant, so when Scott's out, he'll step in and take Scott's role. Scott deserves to go on vacation once in a while, right? And then also just doing some administrative work and support for Scott. And I don't know if you want to come up and just give us just a brief overview of your background and or not.
We'd love to.
All right, I'm Cody Hardy. I've been with the city for almost 2 years. Before that, I did like 15 years in factories, subcontracting, stuff like that. So working with my hands all the time. Coming here, before the promotion, I was working heavily in the parks. So, any questions about the parks, I know them almost like the back of my hand. Yeah, really, that's just me in a nutshell. That's the gist of it.
Yeah, he interviewed so well. We're proud of this dude, and great to have him part of the team. And then also we have Mr. Ryan, another Ryan, Mr. Ryan Cummins here. And he also is a new hire. He's a kind of a hybrid position. We collapse the planning and zoning and project coordination. Again, this is to resource more heavily for our parks. And so Ryan, do you want to just give us a brief background about yourself and
The DPW guys are the most interesting because they're the backbone from turning on the water in the morning and taking a walk on a sidewalk, driving to work. I mean, they're the ones making it happen and keeping those parks looking great. But this is my 21st day here being employed by the city. So I'm going to be learning kind of right along with you. So Scott's presentation was actually really interesting to hear the different work that they're doing different seasons. But I career working for the state of Michigan, doing child welfare work. Worked for the city of Muskegon for about 3.5 years, worked for Ottawa County for 10 years, seasonally with their sheriff's department and their Marine unit. And then I serve in some appointed positions and then really an elected role with the city of Grand Haven. So it's been really interesting to see the different parks and amenities that you have here. Some need some work, right? And that's kind of, I think, what you folks are going to help kind of prioritize and kind of that maintain what you got theme. I kind of saw that, hey, there's so many great things here. How do you maintain them, keep them great, and then kind of sprinkle in some new and fresh ideas too? So look forward to working with all of you.
So if there's one common theme here with the new positions, it's to heavily resource our parks. One of the most important parts of Saugatuck. So between Sarah, the new assistant, Ryan, and myself, who also gets heavily involved in projects, and our engineer, I think we're in a good position moving forward. In Oval Beach operations, not to be underestimated, how much staffing, how much time that takes to have that be a solid operation. And recruitment, staff recruitment, we did really well for this summer. In fact, another position was created, a full-time beach manager that flexes into assisting the Department of Public Works. It's tremendously difficult to find a solid human to be a seasonal beach manager, given the amount of responsibility. So we created a full-time position for the beach manager so that year over year, we won't have to do a recruitment of a new human. So that's the common theme. We're over-resourcing perhaps our Department of Public Works, but it's the most front-facing operation that we have, clearly. So. All right,
Quick
enough
question,
about, go ahead, yes.
So the new person who's the Oval Beach manager, now what are they doing in off season?
Sure, so they just flex right into the department, help with snow plowing and all the things that Scott mentioned that he does in the winter. Yeah.
So is that a fifth employee or that's within the four? Sorry, is it question
Yeah,
time?
no,
It's okay. I think
Is that okay?
we're just roll like this. I think it's
yeah,
It's
thanks,
fine.
Kelly. Really great question. And when it was brought up, I just want to shed some light on that, what that looks like. Ryan's spot on. You can't find a seasonal employee. And so it wasn't efficient to repeat management training year after year. It was ridiculous. So for that reason, that is one of our 4 full-time positions. So really, that's, yeah, what would I say? We have 5 full-time positions besides myself. That's one of them goes out to the beach in the summer. So we're
And
reduced.
that wasn't happening prior?
It was, we had Linda Boltman. She had been the Oval Beach manager / DPW worker for over 10 years. And then the demands of it became really great. And, just over time, you kind of get tired of selling all your holidays and weekends away in the summertime. So she resigned and we tried, I think 5 different managers as part-time managers. It didn't work. So we came back to the drawing board and you really got to entice them with benefits. And so, which is where we're at now. So
Okay.
thanks for asking about that.
Okay, enough about us. What about you all? And then in no particular order, just some introductions and starting with you, Nancy.
Okay, hi, Nancy Kimball. I live at 550 Spear Street. I've been a city resident since mid-2019. And before that, I lived 20 years in Chicago. That's how I found Saugatuck, just trying to escape the city. And we actually experimented with different little places along Michigan. I'm originally from St. Louis area, Southern Illinois. I always say St. Louis because I think who knows Belleville, Illinois, but in, yay. Did you live there?
For a year, or for 3 years, sorry.
Actually, okay, so I'm from Belleville, moved to Chicago, like I said, worked there for 20 years and then decided to leave Chicago and really, you know, we were gonna look all over the country. The first place we looked was here, found a house we loved, bought it, said, save ourselves looking all over the country. When we knew that if we didn't buy the house we found, we'd always say, we should have bought that house in Saugatuck. So we think we made the right decision. And, you know, as far as getting involved with this, you know, my house backs up to the Peterson Preserve, so you'll hear me comment on that occasionally. That's how I got to know Scott. And so frequently, you know, there's issues with the preserve and, you know, I've done a lot of research to figure out what the history of it was and, you know, what can we do to make it better and kind of, you know, when I found out that I had a meeting with some neighbors and I invited Ryan to come and he brought Scott and our project person at the time was, thank you. And anyway, Ryan mentioned that this committee was going to be formed and they would actually have input on what was going on with the parks and that kind of thing and what the priorities were. And do you remember this, Ryan?
Oh, I remember.
I said,
Very well.
okay, I'm signing up. And so I did. So that's pretty much my story.
Okay.
Sorry, it's just kind of all over the place. We'll just follow this little.
Sure.
Keith, let's just, switch it up.
Keith Cherrick. I've lived here since, in the area since 91 actually. Saugatuck proper, 2015, I think. And, you know, I wanted to get involved because I'm a big lover of trees and huge lover of birds. And I think that I want to, not that I have any particular skill set or expertise, but I'm a good volunteer. I do good homework and I'm kind of an eco freak. And I would like to make sure that I want to make sure everything gets run well and the people who live here actually enjoy it more than the people who visit here. Does that make sense? Yeah,
It does.
we have a lot more vested interest in it. So that's what's happening.
Cool, thank you, Keith. We have Glenna with us via the interwebs. Hey, Glenna, you're muted.
Yep,
But-
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep. Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I couldn't be there today. Was really looking forward to this first meeting, but I'm up at Mercy St. Mary's. My wife has been in the hospital since Sunday and it's rather serious. So actually, nobody's in the room right now, so I can take this off. But I'm kind of watching with the other eye out there to see what's happening with her. We purchased a second home in Saugatuck, I believe maybe 16, 17 years ago. We were able to move here full-time 5 years ago after Marcia retired. Love it here. I guess my background more was about 20 years. I was vice president at Michigan Fitness Foundation, trying to get Michigan residents moving. And so one of our focus was to get people outdoors in parks and on trails because we know that when they're in nature, that has additional benefits. After I left there, the last 10 years, I've been a consultant and I've done a lot of work with Michigan Recreation and Park Association and worked on large grants with them and developed their Walk Michigan program and their Come Out and Play, which is a summer and after school program for kids. I'm also on the Riverwood Council, which is sort of more of an informal group that is includes Saugatuck, Douglas Township, and even larger areas. That's just looking at, preserving our parks and creating trails and natural areas. So hope to see you in person next time.
Thanks, Glenna. All the best to you.
Thank you.
Marcia. Yes. Miss Johnson.
Hi, I'm Ruth Johnson. My family and I have been here for around 25 years. 2 kids went through the school system, so know the area very well. My background is I'm a landscape architect, not a horticulturist. but an architect, I design. I love design. I love outdoor spaces. I love to see them function properly. I love everything about them. And I also work at Wishbone Pet Rescue and the shelter, so I'm working with animals too. Two of my very favorite things to do, animals and outside. So this, I'm living the dream world right now for me, so I'm happy to be part of this. Yeah, so that's it. Nice, it's gonna be good to work with you folks, really, so.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly?
So I'm Kelly Roach. I live at 413 Hoffman Street, and I've been coming to Saugatuck literally since, I don't know, I guess right when I got out of college in the 90s, you guys. But I've owned a home here for 13 years. We were Chicago based. We went back and forth for many years. And then we renovated the home that we had owned and moved here full time 4 years ago, raising 2 kids, 2 boys in this community. And my professional background is in medical device. So I was the strategic account manager for all the Midwest when I lived in Chicago. So was responsible for hospitals in the Midwest, all the training hospitals for residents and fellows to learn all of our new technology products for ophthalmology. So I have a lot of background with strategic thinking and planning, and then also training. And then when we moved here, I took a different role as a regional business director for the state of Michigan for a different company, also in ophthalmology. So I was in the OR about 4 to 5 days a week, training surgeons on whatever technology we were launching at the time. And then personally, why I'm so interested in this is that while I was in the city, I was vice president of the board for Walsh Park, which was a neighborhood park. And what became very interesting about that one was that became the eastern trailhead for the 606, which is a raised linear parkway, much like the High Line in New York. And if you've been to Chicago, you might have gone to that. It's an old rail line. And so we were responsible for sharing information for the neighborhood back to, it was Rahm Emanuel at the time as was the mayor, about what was needed for traffic that was going to come through because it became a very popular tourist attraction, really. And then really advocating for the neighbors. So as a part of that, and then when I came here, I became part of the PTO at DES, and then part of Saugatuck Rec. I'm in the ad board for Saugatuck Rec. So that was one of my interests, and how I found out about this is I came to advocate for them because we are kind of at our limit in terms of parks and fields for what we currently have for Saugatuck Rec. And so we're in needing to kind of work together with the tri-community and also this group potentially for some future opportunities. And then during COVID, I got my certification for master gardening. So I also have a passion for being out in the natural setting and a love of that. And I wanted to learn more about that. So I'm just finishing up with my certification for that. Yeah.
Chairman Dean?
Well, I'm Scott Dean. Born and raised in Michigan. Some of my earliest memories growing up as a kid were coming out to the beaches of West Michigan. And after getting out of U of M, like many people, I kind of went and sought my fortune out in the world. And over 20 years, found myself in things like journalism and then later in the energy industry. And during my time in the energy industry, I really started to see up close and personal environmental damage throughout the world and how a lot of beautiful spaces have been destroyed or have been neglected or are under threat. And when I left the energy industry and came back home to Michigan with my family, moving here in 2018, I just couldn't believe what a wonderful paradise we live in. And I'm an avid waterman. I'm an avid outdoors person. If you ask my wife, Max, she will tell you I've got way too many hobbies. She really thinks there are far too many surfboards, paddle boards, bicycles, ski equipment, hiking equipment in our garage. And but that's really what I'm passionate about is outdoor recreation and outdoor spaces. And I really am just excited to bring in other people that are like-minded, but maybe look at things through a slightly different lens than I do, and to really find a holistic solution to our parks. Because this is the only community I've lived in nearly 60 years of life, where every time you sit down with your neighbors, on the boat or at the beach or, outside having a beer, the conversation always turns to, don't we live in a great place? Aren't we lucky to live here? I've never lived in a community where that is always the topic of conversation. So I'm really thrilled to bring this this committee together because I think it's taking that conversation to its next level. So over to you.
Very cool, Mr. Chair. I forgot to mention a little bit about myself. So I'm a Michigan native as well, Jackson, Michigan. My high school jobs, which actually carried through college, were in landscape and irrigation. So even as a high schooler, I was doing irrigation installs and working in the landscape business. I got a degree in urban planning with a minor in environmental studies with water quality focus. Eventually got my master's in public administration. Lived in Florida, Southwest Florida, which is a place that I would not want to be right now as Hurricane Ian is about to tear it up. Lakewood Ranch was the place that I worked. I essentially operated as their public works director, a lot of landscape, a lot of country club communities. Could go on about that for a while. They were the largest green community in the United States. So sustainability is something that I'm very passionate about. Moved to Door County, Wisconsin, 2015, worked up there for 5.5 years as a village administrator. And then was fortunate enough to land in Saugatuck, so a little closer to home. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. All right, so any questions at this point? Because we're gonna start getting into the next part of the presentation, which I hope doesn't bore you. So who are you? What's your scope of work as a committee member? So you're a recommending body. So the decisions that you make will go to council. So, one of the things that you'll do is, I think at your next meeting, likely, and we'll talk about this towards the end of the presentation, is that you'll start prioritizing what projects you all want to work on. What I envision is probably a series of ad hoc committees at some point to work on or focus on certain projects with one common theme, that we don't have a lot of resources. So prioritize your projects the best you can. And again, you're a recommending body. So any decisions that you make will then go to council and they'll review it and they'll either be in favor of it or maybe not. Don't be disappointed if they're not. Trust me, as a staff person, I put recommendations in front of council all the time and they say, no, that's a dumb idea. Sorry, go back to the table or whatever. So don't be disappointed. I don't want to diminish the importance of this committee because this will be actually a very, very strong committee moving forward. So one thing that you will not be involved with is staff and equipment decisions. So that's kind of what I do as basically I operate as the CEO of the city of Saugatuck. So, the city council, they set priorities. They tell me what they want to see happen in the city. And then in turn, I have to figure out how to make that happen working with my very capable staff. And then of course, as we get into projects and discussing projects, we have lots of committees and commissions in the city. So this note here is stay in your lane. So, this is not a planning and zoning committee. I know there's lots of hot topics around the city, but this is a committee that should stay focused on parks and public works. Per the resolution, which I don't know if you've read that, but I can send that out as part of your homework. Next, any questions on that slide as far as scope and what you do? Okay. Again, don't let this bog you down. Meeting decorum and open meeting laws. So we follow Robert's Rules of Order. You're experiencing that right now. The chairman does an excellent job with running meetings. The one thing that I would want to educate you on, if you're not already educated on it, is the open meeting laws in the state. And so really it just comes down to this. You all cannot meet as a quorum to discuss any project that potentially will come to a vote from this committee. And kind of worst case scenario is, let's see, it's a committee of 7, including the non-voting committee of 6, including the non-voting member. So 4 of you can't get together and discuss a project. And then it comes to a vote and let's say you approve that, but we find out that you guys are meeting at the sandbar and discussing it. And what? Is that out of
Go
the
to
realm of
Sam.
possibilities? I see you smiling there,
You
Keith.
go to Sam.
And so let's say that you meet, somebody finds out that you're meeting as a quorum outside of an advertised meeting, and then you make a recommendation to council, council follows your recommendation. And then somebody sues us and they say, well, that recommendation they got actually came from a meeting that was not advertised or held in the sunshine. That could just kill the whole project and we'd have to do a whole redo. Years of work could be gone away with something like that. So anyways, just take that rule very seriously. And then same with emails. Don't go back and forth as a group via email. You can talk to one another about certain projects, but do not just have correspondence as a group. That too is considered conducting conversations or having a meeting outside of
As a
the
group,
sunshine.
4 or less, or 3 or less.
Yeah, you can email less of a quorum. Yep. So if the 3 of you wanted to wrap on something, you can do that. Yep. But just don't do it as an entire group. So emails can be dangerous. You know, I'm constantly, when I communicate with council, so do not reply all to this email because it could be a violation. So anyways, there's lots of people that look for that type of stuff if they don't like a project. So just be cautious. Meeting agendas are set by the chair. And again, as mentioned, recommendations ultimately get voted on by committee and then sent to council for actual decision making. So recommending body, I guess, is the major theme here, and do please take the open meetings laws seriously. Any questions on this particular slide? Don't want to scare you with this stuff. Again, I want to have this committee be fun.
I know our public, like if when they ask you questions about stuff, how do you, I mean, do you talk with them about it or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anything that's discussed amongst your group. I don't imagine that you'll be dealing with anything that's privileged or confidential.
Okay.
Council gets into that quite a bit with litigation,
Yeah.
but I don't see that happening with this committee. So if you get questions, you just let them know.
You don't live on Park Street.
Well,
But
you know,
I know some people that do.
perhaps at if I may, Ryan, perhaps for another meeting or another session, I think our city council has benefited from Michigan Municipal League training. Maybe we'll set up an MML session for the committee just to make people more comfortable. And, maybe if we can find time, we can have a quick brief from legal counsel that would walk you through some of these issues. Because for the most part, I think you'll be able to talk about, what the Parks Committee's been doing. And indeed, one of the prime jobs of this committee is to be ambassadors for the city and particularly ambassadors for our DPW team to sort of help be an intermediary for them in some regards. So I think there are, the legal counsel could probably lay it out for us, but I think there are very few things you couldn't talk about. Something just hypothetically, something could be like land acquisition. That would be something that you probably wouldn't want to talk to your neighbors about. That would be one example, or active litigation for that matter. So it's a fairly limited universe of things, but when in doubt, I would just say go to Ryan or myself. Would be fine. Yeah.
Excellent comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, so we're going into the next slide. I want to keep this super high level, and for this first meeting, we're already 40 minutes in. I would encourage you not to get into any of these projects in particular. We'll save that for the next meeting. I'll work with the chairman to kind of identify some of the higher priorities.
Yeah.
So we'll probably rank at the next meeting. We'll probably rank some of these projects. But go ahead, Mr.
Yeah, our hope for this meeting was really just to pour all this stuff on top of you, let you soak, and then come back and solve all the world's problems in future meetings. So
Yeah. If you don't solve the problems at the next meeting, then you're off the board. JK. All right. So as mentioned on this slide, council priorities. So these were ranked back in December of 2021. These are all related to parks and recreation. We have a 5-year park plan that's coming up for renewal. That's in 2023. I imagine that you're going to be hot and heavy working on that. Mount Baldhead building, bathroom, stairs. And that's kind of a focus for our group, especially the stairs, again, with the theme of maintaining your existing amenities. Mount Bald parking plays into that, yep, and steps, as mentioned. Next slide. Master plan for Oval Beach, natural harbor area. And one thing this presentation does not include is some of the finances that are available to the city. We'll include that in our next meeting. But there are some funds for the natural harbor area that have been set aside. And then we have funds for Oval Beach as well. So anyways, a master plan for that. Peterson Preserve, invasive treatment. We'll talk about that at the next meeting. We tried so hard to get some invasive treated this year. I promise you, Nancy, we can talk
I
about.
have held my tongue, but it's on my mind.
And then we have the what I call the woolly mammoth bug, because I can't pronounce adelgid very well, but the woolly adelgid for the hemlock. It's something that we're actually actively working on with the conservation group with Allegan County. And some efforts have already been made on that. Okay, next slide, please. Landscape improvements, Village Square, Rose Garden. The city did accomplish some work on the Rose Garden that has received a kind of a refreshing, and then Village Square as well. We basically created a palette on which can be improved for the Village Square. So hopefully we can get into some design work eventually on what the Village Square area should look like. It's an amazing pocket park in the middle of the city. And so there's a lot of opportunity there. Streetscape plan for urban trees and sidewalks. So as Scott mentioned, they're working on sidewalks right now, but the tree board, the city previously had a tree board. That tree board has been disbanded or dissolved, I should say, because this group is coming into fruition. So you'll be getting involved with street trees and street tree canopy, and kind of the vision for our sidewalks. And yes, ma'am.
Is there anyone here that was on that board?
There is not.
Did they not want to be here?
No, there were two members. We'll save it.
Okay,
Sidebar
but no, there's
discussion.
not. Okay.
Yeah. And then the Blue Star Trail.
Mhm.
That's going to be something that you all will be involved with as we start looking at, for example, the bridge, the Blue Star Trail along the bridge, and some of the detailed design work. So this committee will actually be working on that, making recommendations to council for that construction project.
And maybe Ryan, share with the team kind of our thoughts on, cooperation with other municipalities, cooperation with the state and federal entities. I'm just thinking back to, the work we've done. It wasn't a governmental entity per se, but, when we just completed some of those securing activities for the radar station, which resulted in a recommendation for the National Register, we worked very closely, for example, with the Saugatuck Douglas History Center. So, you might want to just expand a little bit on sort of your thoughts on how we interface with some of these other partners.
I think that's a great point. So another theme since I've arrived, as directed by council, is to really collaborate as a tri-community. And so with the Blue Star Trail as an example, we've been working with the city village of Douglas and then Saugatuck Township on that project. We were able to organize ourselves, coalesce on a grant, actually 3 grants. And that's an example, but I'll just talk about that quickly. So we have a federal grant that we have conditional approval for. That's $1.25 million. That's a big deal. And then we are out for a state natural resource trust fund grant, one for the township of 300,000, one for the city for 300,000. So it's another 600,000 on top of the 1.2. But we're all the city managers. We collab on this, and there is a group that was formed, a tri-community group to work on the Blue Star Trail. That's an example of what we hope to. It's a great template on what we hope to see going forward. Is that just a collaborative effort? This is a regional operation in my opinion. So the more collaboration we can do, the better. And frankly, we're all doing the same stuff. We should all share the same resources. The Department of Public Works also had an agreement that they entered into with Douglas, just something as simple as snow plowing, right? I think that was during COVID, sharing employees, just kind of resourcing ourselves together. Because they have different stuff, they have, at times we have more equipment than they do. Sometimes they can help us, sometimes we can help them. And then private-public partnerships. So there are some non-for-profit organizations. Mount Baldhead is a great example. And Scott, you spoke very elegantly about this last night. So if you want to just mention that as another example.
It's just, once again, one of my hopes for this committee is, given your network and connections throughout the community, that when a project comes together as a priority for this group, that we can tap some of the expertise that we have. I was really thrilled, when we started trying to just kind of evaluate and secure and kind of really understand the radar station, that suddenly, just kind of out of nowhere, a dream team was assembled. We brought in Brett Burkholz, who knows that place upside down because he replaced the star on the radar tower. Chuck Gustafson's an amateur historian who used to sneak into the radar station and other abandoned places because he's fascinated by their history, and he'd been documenting it for years. A couple other guys, Bob Sapita, Vic Bella, and I'm forgetting some of the others. These guys are electrical engineers that used to, put together giant wiring bundles for IBM computers. So, I mean, these were people that you could tell you what kind of vacuum tube you were looking at. So bringing all these guys to get all these people together, really made that project the success that it was. So I'm really hoping, with your networks and your connections and your people that share common passion in the community or your neighbors, that when the time comes, when we're going to try to execute on some of this stuff, we can bring in other folks. I think of this as really, this committee is really the gateway for the entire community to get involved in making our parks better and more accessible. So
beautiful. If there's one thing that's very clear to me, is that the brain trust in the region is extremely strong. And if we can align the brain trust and priorities and resources, if we can align all those things, we're going to be super, super successful. And so that'll be a common theme going forward. So now we've gone into some of the other priorities for the council. Solar lights. So at this point, we're kind of at deferrable, but these are still on the list. Solar lights for Crow's Nest Trail, volleyball nets at Oval Beach, Wicks Park gazebo improvements, which actually have been completed. I could probably line through that as far as general renovations. Next slide, please. Okay, so, and then we have this whole other list, right? And so I don't know, do you want me to read through this?
I don't think you need to.
Yeah, just, you have the packet. Go ahead and just read through the list when you want. Let me see if there's anything I want to highlight that I haven't mentioned. I should say there's also a tri-community parks plan. That too is going to be coming up very, very shortly. So that's something else outside of just the Saugatuck Parks Plan. There's another one, the Tri-Community Parks Plan. So I forgot to mention
Brian,
that. Yes.
Why is there a tri-community? I mean, is that something that the state required, or is that something that just people thought was a good idea?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if it's required by the state or not. I don't know how that got started.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been in existence for a long time.
Okay. Yeah. So that needs a refreshing. So we're working on that. I'm just going to read through this quickly. Charter fishing facilities, that's an interesting one. We'll talk about that at some other point in time. Bathrooms the bathrooms come up quite often, especially in the summer. So that's something internally we want to focus on. Everyone likes a clean, well-functioning bathroom. Next slide, please. Already talked about Mount Baldhead. There's been plans developed for Coughlin Park. I talked about City Square already. Wayfinding, directional kiosks. That's something that could use improvement in the city. to help people move about and work with the interurban a little better in that. So that's something we'll get into. Airport property utilization. Right, I know that's gonna be a fun one for us. Kayak launch at Kaufman Park, these are just some other ideas that came out. Some point, this group would get involved with a sustainability designation, which would come both through the state and through the federal government. So I hope that we can get there at some point. I like this concept of solar, utilizing solar. So we have this big property out, not only a landfill out by the airport property, but the airport property itself, which is 250 acres plus. So it'd be really cool if we could work on solar at some point. Electric car charging stations, improvements at Willow Park. Next slide, please. All right, so that's just a quick rundown. Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, and if I just to, not to overwhelm you or to have a bunch of questions on like, well, were all these lists just Ryan's wish list or were they my wish list?
Yeah.
No, just to give you a sense, when I joined council 2 years ago, we made a big priority to start trying to do an annual survey of the residents and to hear from them what their priorities were. And those priorities then were put into a large list that sort of got evaluated by weight. And that's become the source of the city councils. Once again, this is a new initiative we started 2 years ago. And there was initially some resistance, but I think people now really have bought into it. We try to do an annual strategic planning session where this feedback, and it's, this is just a chunk of what's in parks and public works. There's other things, of course, that are priorities for our residents. But we try to take those and then refine these lists of the strategic planning sessions to find those priorities. And now this is why I'm really excited about this committee, is because some of these things, they're going to end up in this parks and public works bucket, priorities. And you'll be able to look back at them and say, this was, the number one thing on the residents' mind this year. A great example was, telecoms, terrible cellular service during the summer, number one priority. So that's why the council's put a big focus on it. But once again, now, going back to Mount Baldhead, having this group to be able to say, okay, we need to fix the radar station, but we also need to make sure that we're thinking about AT&T possibly putting cellular in the dome. So don't be surprised, I hope that this list is actually very reflective of what the community is looking for. And I'm hoping that the fact that they vote kind of on this during our surveying process gives you a sense of what percentage of our residents really feel strongly about this being top priority. This would be nice. This we can maybe go down the road a little bit on. So once again, I think we'll see that list evolve. Things will come off that list and new things will come onto that list. But I think some themes are already starting to emerge that I think will once again be great as you guys think about things like the 5-year plan. So thanks. Brother.
Yeah, and so if there's something that you'd like to see added to the list or just ideas that you have mulling in your head, email me after the meeting. And then, this committee will be meeting, the fourth Tuesday of each month this time. That doesn't mean that we won't have special meetings as you get heavy into specific projects, Blue Star Trail being a great example of that. I would envision that you'll probably have to meet a couple of times a month to work out some design details as we start receiving these grants and get into construction design. So with that, yeah, and let's hope that we can have some prioritization from this committee that will will align with the strategic planning for the council, which will be held probably mid-December. So those recommendations as far as prioritizing park projects that this committee feels is important, plus the citizen survey will give a lot of information for the council to mull over and prioritize our resources. So of course, many thanks. We appreciate you and we'll take questions.
I have a question. Just can we form subcommittees? And if we do, are those also need to follow all the public meeting rules?
Yes.
How does that work?
The answer is yes. So ad hoc committees, little breakout committees from this group, they too need to follow the open meeting open meeting laws. So we have to it's a lot of work. So we have to advertise it, right? Post the agenda. Everything that we do for any normal committee or council meeting, we have to do for an ad hoc committee meeting. So we're going to try to, staff would appreciate minimizing those as we get going. But eventually, the reality is that we'll probably have some ad hoc committees. But yeah, they too have to follow the open meeting laws.
Our next meeting will be the fourth Tuesday in October, which the date is
25th.
25th.
I also have all the dates on the website. I
Oh,
created a
okay.
Parks and Public Works Committee page for you.
Thank you. We mentioned that like you just did. That we on our website.
On our website.
There is a you are somebody. We've created a tab
All right.
for Parks and Public Works. And so there's a calendar on there. And yeah, we'll be as you all make decisions, we'll be adding a lot of information on that tab.
And the members can expect a packet prior to the meeting, correct?
I'll send that out.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
And it'll also be available on the website. We'll email blast it out to the public as well prior to the meeting.
You mentioned homework. Is there anything you want us to do or anything we should maybe read up on
Yeah.
for the next?
I
meeting?
would like, the 5-year master plan is a good starting point. I'll send you the resolution that talks, it's a small document, that just tells what the scope of this committee is. And then any other projects that you feel are important to you, please email those to me, and then we can get those included in the next agenda for discussion.
Okay.
Any other homework that you could think of?
Yeah, I just would ask the committee to, well, I'll start from the beginning. I'm hoping that this committee actually, within the bounds of the open meetings law, and I think we can figure out a way to do this, that we can actually get out and meet at some of these locations and spaces. I've asked Scott Herbert to give us kind of his thoughts on, when it's appropriate to visit DPW garage, when it's appropriate to try to organize a visit to the airport property, when it's time to go up on the top of Mount Baldhead or go down to Oval Beach. But I want to be mindful of everyone's ability. So if there's anybody that has any concerns about their ability to maybe do 302 steps or to go hiking or whatever, please let myself or Ryan know so we can tailor these visits. And Scott already wants to take somebody for a ride on the four-wheeler up the top of Mount Baldhead. So.
I mean,
I think I really can't. I don't trust him. I think I'm just going to walk the steps. But just I really am hopeful that I'm a big believer in to really understand a story and to tell a story, you need to walk the land. So I'm really hoping that we can find time in some of our meetings to get out, but also be compliant with open meetings.
Yeah,
how does a field trip affect open meetings?
It doesn't really. So we just have to advertise a meeting place. And then we just give a brief description of where we're going to be wandering about. And so anyone could show up at that meeting. So that's really all it requires.
And you
It's just-
post it on the internet and you
Yeah, all the
post it on the
things, yeah.
bulletin board.
Yeah,
And you
Post it on the website, and then we send an email blast out to,
Okay.
I think we've got about 640 subscriptions, so that's the way. And we do post it on the bulletin board downstairs too.
It may be some of the first meetings that Saugatuck's ever held that are addressed with GPS coordinates, but I think it'll be fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
all right. Anything else? Anything from the squad? Go ahead. Yeah.
Please.
There's a lot of passion, not only in this room, but I think in the tri communities for work of this caliber. And so I just wanted to make you aware of a few things that are kind of currently in progress that I don't know too many people that are aware of them, but I did get a nice contact from Lisa Mize over at the CVB. And she made Ryan and I aware that the CVB tries to budget for $50,000 worth of donation type projects that they feel are beneficial to the visitors of our area. And I think currently this year they've donated 20 out of that 50. So she was reaching out to Ryan and I about, hey, what's going on out in the community? What are people asking for? So we bounced some ideas, and not that this will be prioritized at this very moment by any means, but just so you're aware of the kind of passion that's out there. So Lisa and I and Ryan and I had talked about, a Moby mat out at the Oval Beach to replace the boardwalk that we have. It's ADA compliant, easy maintenance. We also talked about bottle filling stations around town. We talked about EV charging stations and also like recycling bins. So, just the point of this is just to kind of demonstrate that, there's a lot of interest in this type of stuff, and there's a lot of resources that we could network with and tap into that could get some of this stuff done. Had the Allegan County or the Allegan Conservation District, Emily Reichow, she reached out per recommendation from Lich LeBombard, who's the city manager for the city of the Village of Douglas. And Douglas had gotten some like fishing line disposal receptacles, which I thought was super cool. And so the Allegan Conservation District is willing to, I believe, donate some of those types of receptacles to the city, along with what they call cleanup stations. So like maybe out at the Oval Beach, there's a little station. It's got a couple of like little shopping type baskets in it, and some little claw. I don't know what they're called, but those little litter claws. And so like, those are sitting there for people to use too. And so I thought that was really nice. And then also too, we're in the works of getting a private donation figured out for just to replace the swing set out at the Oval Beach. I'll spare the names of the donors in case they want some discretion there, but I just wanted you all to know that kind of stuff is already in the works. And I think it's really cool that other entities, reach out to us too, wondering what can they do to get involved and to get some of this stuff done. So
Yeah, and I think these are the kind of things that you'll see Scott and Ryan, bringing to you in your packet. They may be items, for the agenda for a vote, or they may just be informational, but this will be the start of you guys kind of getting a running tab of things like this that are going on. Please.
Will the packet be like a pickup packet, or are you gonna, okay, so we just pick it up here?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that'll work out just fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
if you, or you can bring
email
your
it.
laptop in, right? You don't, and if you don't want a printed packet, let us know. And we won't print one out. You just
But
bring
it'll be
your laptop
emailed
in.
also, right, Jean?
Yeah,
Okay.
just send me an email, print one out.
Got
for
it.
you. Yeah, no problem.
Okay,
But we'll email it out initially.
perfect.
All right.
Great, thank you, Ryan, and
course,
thank you,
Mr.
thank you, team. I think that takes us to item 7 of our agenda, which is public comment. If there is anyone in attendance or anyone online that would like to make a comment, please identify yourself, stating your name and address. I don't see anything. Jamie, you don't see anything? Okay, well, that concludes public comment. And now we're at item 8. Member closing comments. So why don't we just do a round robin, starting with Keith, if you don't mind.
I'd just like to thank you for interview and getting me on this committee, or asking me to be on the committee, and I appreciate that, and I hope to be a valuable asset to the community.
Thanks, everybody. I'm looking forward to it.
I would just add that, yeah, everything I've heard here today excites me about being on this committee, that all the projects almost are near and dear to my heart. So I'm excited about it. And I just thought I should maybe mention that I am on the board for the Friends of the Blue Star Trail. And, so that obviously is a passion of mine as well. So I think that'll, work well together. I can tell you that the friends are aware that I'm on this committee and they're excited to have, that connection. So hopefully that works out well.
Wonderful. Glenn, any comments?
You're muted.
Yeah, had to unmute. I just look forward to meeting everybody in person next month. Hopefully I'll be able to be there. Thanks.
Just in closing, once again, thank you all for stepping up.
Ruth.
Thank you.
Oh, Ruth, God, sorry. How did I?
Well, sorry, my bad.
This is starting off great.
Oh, but I was looking at you. How did I?
Well,
You should have
Well,
grabbed-
anyway,
you should have
I
stopped
also, I think it's
Sorry.
exciting too. And I think there's gonna be a lot of great projects happening, and there's a lot of huge committees around our town that we can work with and make this place even better than what it already is. So I'm excited to be part of it too.
Thanks, Ruth. And
Yeah, you're
apologies,
welcome.
apologies for,
Accepted.
apologies. I'm very sorry. This is the first committee I've chaired in Saugatuck, so I will endeavor to do better in the future. And once again, in closing, thank you to all of you for stepping up. This is work, and the willingness to step up and do work in this community is what makes this community great. I'm really excited because I think when people see what this community does, they're going to realize that their voice does matter and they can get involved and they will be heard and all views will be respected here. So I'm so excited about this. And once again, thank you all for stepping up for this committee. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.